Hello my lovely viewer, I am back once again with a South Korean zombie horror thriller movie, titled Train to Busan. Watch the full video to find out the interesting part and take care. As a disclaimer, this video includes my own analysis, commentary, and it's not a substitute of the full movie. Click the link below to watch, buy or rent the movie. Mr. Woo is a divorced fund manager who is a workaholic and an absentee father to his little daughter. His daughter misses her mother and wants to pay her a visit in Busan on her birthday. Mr. Woo chooses to take his daughter via KTX bullet train from Seoul station to Busan to relieve himself of his guilt. Mr. Wah, a big strong guy who arrives with his pregnant wife, Mrs. Jae-young. Other passengers include Mr. Suk, a wealthy but cowardly businessman, and a baseball team. The narrative begins with an unknown female discreetly entering the train with a bite wound on her leg, attracting the train attendant with her peculiar behavior. When the attendant approaches her, she strikes and bites her. It creates havoc because the mystery girl and the attendant morph into zombies that attack all of the passengers. Within a fraction of a second, the passengers transform into zombie hordes that prey on the remaining passengers. While Mr. Woo searches the other car for his daughter, who has left her seat to locate a restroom, he notices something peculiar. Hundreds of zombies are chasing after the passengers, who are shouting and racing for the next car. Mr. Woo takes his daughter as soon as he sees her and runs as fast as he can. Since the zombie apocalypse has quickly spread over South Korea, the train continues to move quickly. The train subsequently comes to a halt at a station that has been allegedly secured by the troops and declared safe. Mr. Woo and the other passengers evacuate, expecting the army to arrive to protect them. However, all they find is an army that has completely transformed into zombies and attacks them immediately. The passengers rush back to the train, but the majority of them are killed as they do so. Mr. Suk, who notices that a quarantine zone has reportedly been established in Busan, pushes the conductor to drive the train to Busan right away. When the train begins to move, several passengers have survived and safely board the front car, but Mr. Woo and several other passengers are still struggling to escape the hordes of zombies. Mr. Woo manages to get into the train at the last minute after a fierce battle with the endless zombies, but ends up splitting with his daughter into different cars. Mr. Woo, Mr. Wah, and a final baseball team member board car 9, while Mrs. Jae-young, Mr. Wah's wife, is trapped between two zombie cars in car 13, hiding inside the toilet. They begin fighting the zombies in order to save their loved ones, and they make plans to gather in car 15 with the other survivors. As they struggle to keep up with the zombies, the train passes through the tunnel, and the zombies begin to slow down and behave strangely. They eventually realize that the zombies can't see in the dark. Mr. Woo takes advantage of the zombies' weaknesses to trick them and escape without fighting them. Mr. Woo is eventually relieved to find his daughter, and Mr. Wah finally meets his wife. They must all pass through the zombie hordes in front of them in order to reach the safe car. But there are too many zombies in their path, and fighting them all one by one is both dangerous and impossible. When the train passes through the tunnel, they get the bright idea to crawl through the luggage racks. Their plan initially works as planned, until an elderly man falls from the luggage rack. Mr. Woo offers to assist him, but when the train passes through the tunnel, they both become trapped in the car with the zombies. It's getting worse because the old man unintentionally steps on a soda can, attracting all of the zombies who are acting aggressively and chasing them. They dash through the door as quickly as they can. Mr. Wah is forced to hold the door open after a zombie becomes trapped inside. The baseball player nearly enters the safe car, but he is unable to open the glass door. After being provoked by Mr. Suk, the surviving passengers inside the car purposefully seal and lock the door. Mr. Wah desperately holds the other door against the oncoming zombies as the baseball player smashes the door. Mr. Woo tries to assist Mr. Wah in defeating the zombies, but Mr. Wah is bitten by the zombie and will soon turn into one as well. Mr. Wah requests that Mr. Woo leave and care for his wife. The door suddenly bursts open, allowing zombies to enter, but Mr. Wah isn't about to give up without a fight. Sang-hwa sacrifices his life fighting until his last breath to keep the zombie at bay before he completely transforms into a zombie. The baseball player is finally able to break and open the other doors, and everyone rushes inside. Mr. Woo grabs Mrs. Jae-young and his daughter, shuts the door, and slaps Mr. Suk for being so selfish. Mr. Suk informs the other passengers that Suk-woo is infected. As a result, Suk-woo and the others from the previous car are trapped in the vestibule. Not long after that, the passengers in car 15 are suddenly assaulted by tens of thousands of zombies. Nobody appears to be alive. Mr. Woo and the others are taken aback, wondering how the zombies got in while the doors were still tightly shut. Or is it possible that someone in the car is already infected? Before they can figure it out, the captain alerts the surviving passengers that they must change trains due to a blockade in front of the train. The captain exits the train and searches for another train. Mr. Woo informs the others that they must relocate and find a way to Busan. He also promises to take his daughter to Busan to meet her mother. Meanwhile, after many trains with zombies inside, the captain finally finds an empty train. A burning car hurls into Mr. Woo's train as he and others are exiting the previous train. A major collision is unavoidable. Fortunately, Mr. Woo, his daughter, and Mrs. Jaeyoung are not hit by the car, but they are trapped beneath a zombie car. Mr. Woo finds a way out of the zombie car as it collapses. The zombies break through the window of the train car, approaching them as he tries to pull the others out. The elderly man then gives his life to prevent the zombies from reaching Mrs. Jaeyoung and Mr. Woo's daughter. The old man is killed when he is hit by the collapsing train. Mr. Woo and the girls flee the hordes of zombies, catching up with the moving train car. When the zombies from the station notice them moving, they all rush after them, piling on top of each other. As Mr. Woo continues to push and kick the zombies away, they can finally board the train. Because the car is moving quickly, the zombies will be left far behind. After a difficult battle against the zombies, the three of them eventually survive the zombie outbreak. They then carefully approach the car and gather with the captain. When Mr. Woo opens the cabin door, he finds a half-turned Mr. Suk instead of the captain. Mr. Suk, who has completely transformed into a zombie, attacks the three of them. To protect his daughter and Mrs. Jaeyoung, Mr. Woo fights him with all his might. Mr. Suk continues to assault Mr. Woo aggressively. Mr. Woo's hand is bitten by Mr. Suk as he pulls Mr. Suk away from Mrs. Jaeyoung. Mr. Woo ties himself to the train and then throws the man off. Mr. Woo, realizing he has been bitten, quickly teaches Sung Jaeyoung how to operate the train and says his final goodbyes, especially to his daughter. Mr. Woo, who is starting to turn into a zombie, pushes himself away from the car and walks out, smiling and remembering the day his daughter was born, but regretting not spending enough time to raise her well. He ends up throwing himself off the train just as he transforms completely into a zombie. The daughter and wife finally survive the zombie apocalypse and arrive safely in Busan thanks to Mr. Woo and Mr. Wa's great sacrifice for their loved ones. The movie ends here. Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like and comment to support the channel. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.